Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Imam Rahim here. That's from the covenant. Break of seven seals. Just a short presentation tonight, brothers and sisters. Mostly a test. I had to redo my entire system today, everything from bottom to top, all of it. Total reorganization. Everything just failed. I had to do it from scratch and a whole different system altogether. So testing, see how it works out well, works out okay or not. So this is partly a test. It'll be a short presentation, brothers and sisters. I said everything is totally different. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, brothers and sisters, if you haven't noticed fear, if you listen to social media, people start sensing the fear. They start saying, America should be going to war with Iran. They should get out of the Middle East. What's Trump doing? Right? Fear. It's starting to touch America, but it'll be here soon. It's coming at the speed of light, brothers and sisters. Hypersonic speed. And it cannot be stopped unless you can change first the universe. I'm not going into that kind of detail, brothers and sisters, but you have two types of pressure: quality pressure, quantity pressure. Quantity pressure is that is the universe expands and contracts. It's the tension or extended pressure. Now its pressure is increasing. There's nothing we can do to stop that. Quality of pressure, you control that. The quality. So let's move on, brothers and sisters. I'm going to have, like I said, a short presentation here. As most of the tests, but this fear, this is not a test. It's real. The fear that's about to hit America is real. And it's coming. And you start to sense people starting to feel it. They're starting to feel it. They're pulling their hair out and everything. What's America doing? And if you listen to them, it's like they repeat the angel. The war that Iran's going to be disastrous. It's going to be, it's going to cause total economic collapse and everything. Okay. There's much more to it than you may understand it, brothers and sisters, but they're paying attention to this. Believe me, they are. Fear. So I'm going to talk about, see, here it says, man's heart is failing them for fear, but looking at those things which are coming on the earth, the powers of the heaven shall be shaken or broken. Right? That's the fear. That's the fear, right? This war will bring. That's the fear that will come as a result of this war, because this war is going to go badly. When they go attack Iran, the war with Iran will go badly. That's going to strike fear. It's going to strike terror. Terror in hearts. It's going to be a shock wave. It's going to cast terror in the hearts of Americans. Terror. Panic. Hearts failing, strokes, seizures. Wherever they are, when they hear the news. Right? But there's another state of fear. Right? Because right now, they're in a state of fear right now because they're talking about a nuclear attack on Iran. There's something going on over there right now that's got them afraid. See, because when you're in fear, that's when you got your biggest weapons. So if you're not in fear, you don't. If you're not in fear, you don't need to put any weapons. The greater the weapons, the greater the fear. You got nuclear weapons on Iran. Something they see going over there. I'm not going to get into it, brothers and sisters, but something they see right now that's putting, and they know they have to deal with it. That's the problem they have. They know they have to deal with it. But they see when they something they see over there, they know they have to deal with it. They know they can't just let it pass. They know they have to deal with it in a very powerful way. Right? Okay? But that tells you that they fear it. Or they wouldn't, right? They neglect it. They fear it. So there's a fear right now that they hide from the public. The government has. Mr. Trump has. Something they see over there right now, they said, man, we need to use nuclear weapons, and we need to do it quick. Two signs of fear. Right? And that fear right now is fear of, right? And then that figure would trigger the next one. The fear you're talking about here is that whatever they do is going to fail. And that's when the general public will know. See, right now, the government knows, military knows, but they keep it from the public. And they're in fear. That's why I say, we got to deal with this. Why they got to deal with Iran so much? Why they got to use nuclear weapons? Think about using nuclear weapons. Why? It's not bothering anybody. And we know for us, Israel, that's part of their aim to gain control of that whole region. But nuclear weapons? Okay? So fear's already got them. But it'd be general public once that war goes bad. It's going to be so significant. Remember, when this war goes bad over there, it's going to be so significant because the failure in Vietnam didn't cause heart attacks. Failure in Afghanistan, the failure over there is going to cause heart attacks. It's going to be so intense. So intense. That's why I can't convey to you, Bronson, how bad this thing is about to be. Because I know you don't understand. Because they're telling you, you never seen it's a time of unprecedented trouble. So their hearts are failing because, right? Because the war over there, in anticipation of what's going to happen here, hasn't got here. But they're going to have an epidemic of heart attacks and seizures and strokes. Not like that happened. It's going to shake them so significant. And then, so if that's the case, then what happens when it actually gets here? See, this is anticipation. So how many you have 3 stages of fear there. The fear that's going on right now, that the government acting on. The fear as a result of their actions that they're planning right now. That's 2 fears. And third fear is actual when it hits here. If their hearts are failing, just anticipation, what will their hearts do when they get there? Anyway, let's move on, brothers and sisters. I'm keeping it short. So it's mostly a test. Death, Gog and Magog. Death of Gog and Magog, brothers and sisters. Okay. My sisters act all crazy over here. Okay. Death of Gog and Magog. Let me just check my sound over here, brothers and sisters. It's going to shake this. Okay. Death of Gog and Magog. So I'm just going to go a couple of things, brothers and sisters, because I know you're missing these things. See, these fools on Sunday, they're talking this garbage. They have no idea what they're talking about. America's decline. When did America's decline start? So America's decline started that so-called Civil War. Okay. We still subjected them until 2019. Right? But we still subjected, but we started rising. Civil War, that's because the Industrial Revolution came in. And that was inspired by us, but that's another story. But what I want you to get to see is that the Europeans at that time had control of the planet. They had control of the planet. They had control of China, control of India, control of Africa, control of South America. Had They control the planet. Think about that. They control the planet. And then it starts rolling back from there. Just track it. Start rolling back from there. Rolling back. Right? So by time, that's 1865, right? By time 19, right? They start fighting with each other. First World War. Right? And they start losing control. World War II, World War I, right? That's what they start losing control of China, I believe. So they start, so if you just track the major events, right? What's the major events that we're aware of, right? That most people are aware of. You're aware of, because remember Haiti, when Haiti, but anyway, the major one is talking about, let's go back to Korean War. Then, okay, that's 1950s. Because, well, we can go back a little further than that, actually, because World War II, right? They lost control of Japan, and they had to drop atomic bombs on them to get control of them again. They lost control of Japan. They had control all that before. They lost control of Japan. They had to drop bombs on them. And also, process lost to China. China became communist. You see? So they start losing control. Let's go to major Korea. Okay? That's a major one, right? Korea. They lost control of Korea. So they end up owning control of half of it. South Korea. China beat them back. China was involved in that war. That's another story altogether, right? Then fast forward on to China, in that region of the world. Right? Then Vietnam, brother. Right? Okay, Vietnam, they control all of Vietnam. They lost control of all of Vietnam. They lost control of half of Korea. Right? They lost control of all of Vietnam. And then kind of major wars, right? And then you go in and you go off, and then these move us to let's see, well, they start losing control of Africa. Start breaking free. Right? The so-called civil rights movement in America. The point I'm trying to say is, you see, they're losing their grip on all they possess, because in the 1860s, they had control of the whole planet. And now you see step by step, they're losing control here. They control Africa. When they lose control of India, World War II. Lost control of India, World War II. See? Britain had total control of India. India, right? The French, right, lost control of the Americas. They had Haiti. They had Louisiana. They start losing control. And then you get to Iraq. Well, I'll leave the Middle East out for a minute. Right? And then, so the thing is, they're losing control. They're trying to hold on. So they have all these wars, because they're trying to, in the Middle East right now, it's not about the Middle East. It says they got to, see, they lost control of everything else. So now they focus all their efforts in the Middle East. All their efforts in the Middle East, right? Why is that? See? And they lose control of that. Because of the oil, because that fuels is the reality. But one of the major reasons is that it's so much wrapped up in the Middle East there. See, Middle East is their last, like a fortress, their last holdout, because all their, what you say, what term they use? Everything is wrapped up in the Middle East right now. Economically, spiritually, socially, everything. So the thing is, it says it's bastard of control. So therefore, okay, let's look at something else first. When you lose control, right? Fear comes as a result of losing control. When you have control, you don't have fear. Losing control is a function of fear. Right? So when you lose control, right, you want to take, and now you're trying to maintain control. That means it takes more and more energy to maintain control if you're losing it. Until you don't have enough energy, and you can't. You keep on trying. You use energy. Say, "Oh, I'm just trying to control this thing." So it takes more and more energy to control it. But if you lose control, then if you have control of it, okay, you got it. When you start losing control, to maintain that control, you have to keep adding more energy, more energy, more energy, more energy. That's why America's so much debt. You got to learn to read these things. There's so much debt because they're using all this energy trying to maintain control because they know they're losing control. They lose control of the planet. They had it. They lose control of it. In every aspect, they lose control. Okay. So you understand that. Okay. America's virtually bankrupt right now because they spend all this energy. That's why all these wars. See, when you're trying to control, you got to fight. In other words, if you got control, something you got it. But if you lose control, then you have to fight. See what I'm saying? You're not more aggressive. You see, America. What? They're trying to maintain their control. I'm trying to get you to understand what's going on. They're not powerful. They're in a state of weakness. They're in a state of weakness. We understand it because these wars. If you see me at war, he's they're at war all the time. No, at war all the time means they're losing. They're weak. See, they're losing. They're weak. So they say, well, because they're trying to maintain, but they keep losing it. They lost control of Afghanistan. They lost control of Vietnam. They control half of Korea. They lost control of the Philippines. Right? Lost control of South America. It's losing control of America itself. It's losing control of the black folks here. See, and they understand. They may understand consequences. But they understand the fact is that if you lose control of something that you've been abusing, then maybe they'll start abusing you. Because they lose control of people that they maintain control through very harsh, evil, oppressive means. But they lose control. And so right now, they lost control of all of the planet. And so their last no control is the Middle East. They're losing control of us. And that's what I want to focus on right here, right now, control of us. Think about this. They need to keep us under control because we're the ones they offended the worst, the most. All the nations understand that also. And it says in the scriptures that they feared that war would break out, and we would unite, come together, and help and fight on the side of the enemy and destroy them. I should show the quote. So they fear losing control of us. Plus, if you understand the mathematics of it, if you got cats and dogs together and the dogs control the cats, right? They're two different natures. So that relationship would be one be oppressive to the other. Because the dogs are forced to cats act like dogs. Because that's the law the law they would have. And the law would have to be a dog law, and the cats would be unprecedented law. Otherwise, they'd be criminals, right? But now the cats got in power, they reversed the process. So now the dogs have to act like cats. They don't want that. And they'll be oppressed. That's just basic, brothers. You can't say, oh man, they're going to be nice. All of that. That's that seal Bible stuff they give you, or it's emotional stuff. Oh, they'd be nice like this crap. Ishmael time, we love the devil, that kind of stuff, right? You gotta understand the nature of things. The relationship between us and them is always be oppressive, dominant and oppressed. It'll always be that way because it's two different natures. It's the nature between cats and dogs. That relation will always be oppressive on one way or the other. Either the cats are oppressing the dogs or dogs are oppressing the cats because they're different natures. So they can talk about stuff they want to. They don't have the same nature. And the scriptures tell you that too. So we understand that they have to keep us under control. They lose control. But they need to keep us under control because their fear was that we would retaliate against them. And scripture says that's what we're commanded to do. We retaliate against them for what they did to us. They know they did unimaginable things to us. And the consequence would be enormous. But it's hard to keep control of us. Like I said, we start rising in the 1860s. And the Industrial Revolution is a result of our spirits, like I talked about music. I explained how that 50-year period, blues, 50 years later, blues came out in the 1860s. Go check it. Jazz 50 years later. Motown sound 50 years later. And now we do for a new, which will be soon as be victorious type of sound anyway. So we start rising. I'm trying to connect the dots here a little bit, brothers and sisters. We start rising. Okay. So the Industrial Revolution is to prove to you that's our spirit that brought that about because it benefited us because the guys out the fields. Okay. That was to our benefit. That's what the war was all about because we're the best. Who's the best workers in the field? Who's the best workers in industrial? We're still slaves. They call us employees. Who's the best? And the white folks couldn't compete with us. And slave masters kept putting us in the factories. And the white folks says, hey, they couldn't compete with us. Because the other white folks rather have us than them because we was better workers than them. See, plus they had to pay us much because we still on the slave master. And that's where they stopped that. They stopped it. I'm going to detail about that. But understand that. That's what I said. That's the Industrial Revolution was about. It wasn't about because they love you, they regret having slavery. And the AI is also inspired by you. I'm not going to detail about that, but I'm just going to a short presentation, maybe tomorrow or later on. Well, later on today, actually, it is tomorrow right now, right? But the thing is that to prove that Industrial Revolution is about you. See? Because they couldn't have you controlling that, so it took more and more energy to keep control. But if you got, if they let you, remember that's inspired by you. So if they let you have control of that, because you own Detroit, and you was the best. Detroit was like a black mecca back then. You own the car industry. You was the best workers. You was starting to get, you was better. In other words, the Industrial Revolution was getting stronger and stronger and stronger at it. And they said, we can't have that. So he says, we got to stop them. And so how do they stop them? They said, okay, let's send those jobs over to China. You see? They lose control of you. So they sell those jobs over to China, which actually cost them more energy because now the energy, since they're giving those jobs over here, right, what's happening? That's backfiring because now they got more and more energy to try to stop China. Anything they use against us is working against them. So they're going broke right now because the whole idea of sending a job to China is there's energy they're using to hold you back. They send all your jobs over to China. See? So that's the energy they're using to hold you back. But now, right? But now they got to control China to keep you from getting those jobs. So that's taking a lot more and more energy. You understand what I'm saying? So it's taking a whole lot. All this energy is invested what? To keep you down. They invest all this energy to keep you from rising. You understand what I'm saying? So it's bankrupting them. And the same thing with India right now. They spend all this energy because the AI is inspired by you also. And so they use all, so what? They give all this AI to India, which again, India's become a powerhouse. And so now they got to deal with that more and more energy. The purpose of energy is to keep you. They give it energy. They give it to them. They give it to China, right? And now they got to contain them because the purpose they're giving to them is to keep you down. Hope you understand that. So they invest in all this. They say spend more and more energy because they say, okay, they'll bring all these Indians over here. That takes a lot of energy, and then they got to make sure that it don't backfire on them. AI because AI is against them, and so is industrial. And in China, so now China become a powerhouse. And they got to look all the energy got to get paid because China was a basket case back then. But look all the energy got to use now to keep China under control. Look all the energy got now they got to keep India under control. You understand, brothers and sisters? And the purpose of doing that is to keep you under control. Then to get back to the Middle East. Look how much money they take to keep false Israel going. And false Israel set up in 48 to keep you, okay, economically, right? In China, India, and keep you from getting the vision. That's false Israel. Because there's no, that false Israel. You can't have that vision because Elijah Muhammad said, no truth is Abraham. And if you have that vision, of people without a vision perish. They're trying to stop you having that vision. Because if false Israel goes down, that means you must be, because you got the history and everything. You got 40 years here. You came over here on slave ships. You're oppressed and abused. They raped us and everything. That's the whole story. But false Israel claim that's happened to them. But if they go down, that means it didn't. That means it, all of a sudden, you awaken and realize that's your vision. And once you get that vision, now you be ready to get you receive your mind. First, you got to get the vision. Then you get your mind back. You understand what I'm saying? So look how they invest in energy in the Middle East. So they invest energy in it in the Far East, the Near East, and the Middle East. All of it focused on to keep you from rising. You understand, brothers and sisters? It says they stood by to destroy you as soon as you was born. Not just them, specifically, right? False Israel. All the nations involved in it. But see, America's been all that. That means they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And so they're getting desperate. And that's why I think I'll probably do that maybe later on today. They were saying this agreement with Russia, that one stipulation was that Russia had to agree that they couldn't let Iran ever get in a position where they could destroy false Israel. Think about that. Well, why they can't let false Israel go down? Because if false Israel go down, this whole thing collapses. It's two things happening in the Middle East that's totally different. I mean, if you look at the whole region, what? If false Israel goes down, that's total. It destroys the religion. The religion hold they got over you, still Bible, it destroys it. False Israel goes down. If they control the oil over there, that means Iran takes right the whole system. It's whole fuel. It's fuel. The cornerstone of it is false Israel. The foundation fuel of it, right, is oil. See the desperation? See? It's desperation. That's what all the focus is more there than is in China or any place else. That right there, it's taking a lot of, it's getting harder because we're rising. So it's harder. At some point, the whole economy collapses. They can't sustain it anymore. At some point, that happens. Because they're going on all these wars and everything else, right? They're trying to hold on to power. And now fear is rising because, as I said, if you start losing power, you start fearing. And the more power you're losing, the more you fear. So right now, the fear is, right? The government is fear. They keep it hide from the public, but the public's starting to sense it. So I'm going to leave it there, brother. I'm trying to understand that. Understand the mechanism here. It's the fear. Because right now, what you see what happening right, I'm trying to give you a very simple form. What's happening, you see right now, is that it's not because America's so powerful, because they're losing. They're trying to hold on to power. Just follow history. They have less power today over the world than they had 50 years ago. So all spend, and look how much energy they desperate. Look what false Israel are doing over there. Genocide. But they turn their back and don't pinch to it because they know they cannot let false Israel go down for two reasons I just told you. Because we had a vision. Secondly, what fuels this whole reality is in jeopardy. It will crash. So then you see why they're doing what they're doing. And so at that time, when forces actually is crash, that's when you rise. Because they failed. They couldn't hold, in other words, they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't hold on to it anymore. They did everything they could, and it was too much. And that's why it says the power of heaven be shaken, because they finally lose control. When they lose control of the Middle East, that's dramatic. That's dramatic. Because you don't see it right now. Because that means forces went down. Oh, now these black folks got a vision. Yeah? All is cut off. So they say America's got plenty of oil. Okay, even if America had plenty of oil, Europe does not. And Europe is totally dependent upon the oil. And right now, their odds with Russia does have oil. So only they totally depend on oil in the Middle East. So even if America had all they say they did, was that all is cut off, they would have to supply Europe. So if they don't supply Europe, then that means Europe is going to ally with Russia. Because they have to have all the population would demand it. Right? So they have to supply them. If they supply them, that means they won't have enough oil to supply America anymore. Both of them will collapse. You'll be paying $200-$300 a gallon for gas here. So there's no way to get out of that. See? But they would have to supply Europe, and they want Europe to stay. And right now, you see, Trump said, I told you years ago that there was going to break between Europe and America. You see it happening right now. Well, you see the signs of all this stuff happening right now. The dam cracking, right? You see a rubber band stretch about to break. All the tensions are so tight right now. You see all these, you see what I'm saying? Everything, I mean, the tension between America and Europe. Remember, they were united. So it means right now it's tension. Right? That shows you that the Europeans are in trouble. They're in great trouble right now, and they're barely holding on. They're not unified anymore. Trump is, why you say, he's going to do all this stuff? That's not mean he's strong. That means he's weak. Oh, I'm going to attack. He's antagonizing China. Canada. Antagonize all his friends. They're desperate. It's like a family, right? They're all united. And then all of a sudden there's a famine, there's no food. And they fight each other for little scraps. Now they're against each other because there's not enough food, so they fight each other. That's what's happening. They're happening because the strain is so great. That's what's happening. So I want you to understand. I'm going to let it go there, bro. But I'm trying to get you to understand what you see so you understand it. See, America's in trouble. That's why in the wars they're losing the ones they are. And now he's not promoting unity. And he said, look how strong he is. No. He's strained. The strain is getting greater and greater and greater. And he's antagonizing his friends. America's totally isolated now. Everybody's against America. So what do you think the next step is? They was united a year or so ago, right? And all of a sudden strange. So before a pot boils, it gets hot, you see it start bubbling. So right now you see there's tears, the stresses. So the next thing is the war. don't see that? Next name is the war. America's gonna be a war. America's right now is strained because they say, "Oh, he's so tough." No, the tensions because America's desperate. So they want to take this, they want to take the mineral rights for everybody else. America's so great. Why do you do all that? Because the tension's so great. So you start pulling on something, put rubber band, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. So it means eventually, if you keep pulling, it's going to break. That's about to happen, brothers and sisters. I hope you understand. I'm going to leave it there. It's late, so I'm going to leave it like I said. I'm going to test now. So far, the system's held up, I think. I don't see any buffering or sound. Let me check the sound. Sound seems to be okay. There's some issues, but yeah, this will go. There's some issues, but there are some camera issues, but it may work. All day working system, brothers and sisters. Yeah, that was. They don't want me to get this stuff. They don't want me to get this out, so that doesn't matter. Oh, let me play this, brothers and sisters. A little bit of it anyway. Then I'm gonna go. Forgot about this. Forgot about this. Okay, here we go.
With Iran, and that's according to reports that are coming from Ken Klippenstein, a former colleague of TYT, and someone who's now writing independently over at Substack. And they're even considering, apparently, a scenario in which nuclear weapons could be used. So let's break this down. Let's see what the sources are. Let's see how much reality there is behind that possibility. So, on Tuesday, Klippenstein reported that Pentagon and company contracting documents that he had obtained describe a unique joint staff planning effort underway in Washington and in the Middle East to refine the next generation of a major regional conflict with Iran. So that planning effort is basically being referred to as a SEED project. That's what they've dubbed it. Part of the reason why the project exists is that the Pentagon is re-evaluating Iran's war capabilities. I hope they're taking their time in re-evaluating Iran's war capabilities. I hope they're maybe a little more competent than what we experienced during the Bush administration. But please make no mistake about it. The neocons are back. Okay, they're in charge. Don't let anyone think for a second that the Trump Pentagon is any different from the Bush era Pentagon. Full to the rim, okay, with these neocons who are just salivating for a war with Iran, and they're literally talking about the potential of nuclear weapons. Okay, so let me continue. While the Pentagon is no longer concerned that Iran could launch a ground invasion of their neighboring countries, which should be the most important thing, right? They are worried about the combination of narrow pinprick attacks by proxies, Iran's various covert and influence campaigns, and its use and proliferation of long-range drones and missiles, especially to Russia. So U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, is the Pentagon's regional command that oversees the Middle East specifically. And it's also the division that is working on the war plans I should say, against Iran. So one document in that plan warns of the distinct possibility of the war escalating outside of the United States government's intention and impacting the rest of the region, demanding a multifaceted approach. And so according to a retired senior military officer who was actually briefed on these plans, they include the possibility of using nuclear weapons. So let me just pause and say, for the young men who were concerned about the continuation of the Biden administration through the election of Kamala Harris, these were the same people who were concerned about World War III, about things getting so out of control that maybe the United States would even consider re-implementing a draft. They were worried about the possibility of nuclear war, not in regard to Israel and Iran or the Middle East. They were concerned that nuclear war would break out as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. But now you have the Trump administration And we're hearing from the Pentagon in the Trump administration that they're, considering scenarios in which nuclear weapons might be part of the scenario. Okay. But let's just go back to what that retired senior military officer said. One might find it extraordinary to think that nuclear weapons are even considered, the officer tells us. But we have entered a new era.
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to charge me $197 for car insurance. No, thank you. I got a friend who told me about this website. Now I'm spending...
I don't love the fact that I keep thinking about Tucker Carlson, of all people, being correct on the issue of Iran and urging the Trump administration to avoid engaging in a war with Iran on behalf of Israel. But we're going to do it anyway. Because Tucker Carlson doesn't own the government. The Israel lobby owns the government. And who cares about American soldiers? They're expendable. Who cares about civilian lives? I mean, anything for the Israel lobby. Anything. Okay, there's more. The officer stated that the nuclear plans aren't necessarily related to Donald Trump's re-election. Rather, that these would be the three reasons for reintroducing nuclear deterrence. So the argument here is it's not like Trump's over at the Pentagon telling them, oh, you should threaten nuclear weapons or the use of nuclear weapons against Iran. But nonetheless, I mean, who's the head of the Pentagon right now? Who are the individuals within the Trump administration who have only escalated the, conflict in the Middle East, certainly with this notion that we should, take over the Gaza Strip, ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip of Palestinians. I mean, it's just, but anyway, so here are the three reasons for reintroducing nuclear deterrence, according to the Pentagon. So to directly deter Iran from developing nuclear weapons, or then from using them, a great way of doing that would be to re-implement the Iran nuclear deal, which prevented them from, developing nuclear weapons. So if you don't want to blame Trump, I'm sorry, the president who actually ripped up the Iran nuclear deal was Donald Trump. But let me continue. To convince Israel not to use its own nuclear weapons, that is by making it clear that the U.S. equally would or could preempt Iran if something dire happened. Also to dissuade Saudi Arabia from perceiving that it has to develop its own nuclear weapons because Iran is doing so. So here are the scenarios in which the United States would authorize the use of nuclear weapons against Iran according to these plans. So one, with the CENTCOM commander requesting the use of nuclear weapons mostly to stave off Iranian conventional military success. And two, in a top-down order that is by the president, mostly as a demonstration to signal to Iran. In other words, the red button could very well be in Donald Trump's hands, or his decision to use nuclear weapons could be. So tensions are rising as Iran pushes back against the Trump administration. For instance, 2 weeks ago, Trump wrote a letter to Ayatollah Khamenei. That's Iran's supreme leader, a theocrat. Now, he sends this letter as a gesture to start talks about the country's nuclear program. And according to reports, the letter contained a 2-month deadline to reach a new nuclear deal. He could have kept the old nuclear deal in place, but Obama negotiated it, and Trump has to reverse anything a Democratic president does, even if the Democratic president actually secured a win. In this case, the Iran nuclear deal was a win, but make no mistake about it. Netanyahu doesn't want an Iran nuclear deal. He wants the U.S. to go to war against Iran on his behalf. And make no mistake, we will do it. I have no doubt at this point that we're going to do it. It's so unhinged and so ridiculous, even as the Pentagon acknowledges that Iran's not looking to do any kind of ground invasion against one of its neighboring countries. I mean, just think about the military capability and the defense capacity that Israel has. I mean, and we're still having a conversation, given what the Pentagon has acknowledged, about doing a war against Iran, engaging in war against Iran. Okay, great. Anyway, so the letter was publicly rejected by both Khamenei and Iran's president. The supreme leader, the Grand Ayatollah, says that the insistence of some bullying governments on negotiations is not to resolve issues. Talks for them are a pathway to have new demands. It is not only about Iran's nuclear issue. And that's not all. So Noor News, an outlet affiliated with Iran's Supreme National Security Council, said there will be no guarantee Iran will not abandon the non-proliferation treaty if Trump and his team keep threatening them. And that's bad news given the state of Iran's nuclear advancements. Although, given the reporter here, Barak Ravid, who seems to just serve as a stenographer, I would kind of take these numbers with a grain of salt. I mean, I would want to find a different way of confirming them. But this is what's being claimed, that Iran's nuclear program has advanced over the past 4 years, and it is closer than ever to producing a nuclear weapon. Its stockpile of 60% enriched uranium is enough for 6 nuclear bombs if enriched to 90%. And that's according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. So look, there's always been a lot of fear-mongering about Iran. And that fear-mongering tends to, come specifically from the Israeli government that sees Iran as a threat, wants us to use our resources and human lives in order to fight that war on their behalf. And we're going to do it. So I just want to be clear about that. I want to warn you about that. And the mere mention of nuclear weapons playing a role in this is absolutely and utterly disgusting. So I have no malice toward Trump voters. These are ordinary Americans. We live in a democracy. They get to vote however they want. But I just hope that for those who are persuaded to vote for Trump over Harris because they were worried about war spreading, they were worried about World War III, they were worried about nuclear war, get a load of what's happening right now and what the Pentagon is considering. Are you okay with that? Because if we have any hope in preventing this from happening, it's not going to come from me. It's not going to come from members of the Democratic Party. They're pathetic as it is. It's going to come from rage and anger from Trump's base. And so I'm begging them to really think about what the consequences of this would be for the American people. And make your voices heard, please, because this is insane.
Every time you ring the
Phantom power, brothers and sisters. Remember that. America has no power. Momentum. Phantom power. You're going to find out in a minute when they run against Iran. King of the North against the King of the South. America has no power. Bluffing. You're going to find out in a minute, brothers and sisters. The war is going to take place any day now. Maybe any hour. Counterfeit power. Power's up. They're desperate to hold on to it. That's why they're fighting, trying to hold on to their power. They see it fading right before their eyes. See their power. The winter is melting. Melting before the spring. Nothing they can do about it. You see all their power just evaporating. Mr. Farrakhan, he's one of his instruments. He's one of the last this message. Keep you from waking up. Stay here. We loved him. And he claimed any reading of Elijah Muhammad's teachings, any reason of the lessons, any reason of the reading of the Bible, totally condemns this fool here, this liar. Totally. Makes you wonder how in the hell they're over there with him.